The Rust console dev team has finally commented on the progress of community servers, as well as giving us some details of what other content we can soon expect to see. Today, we're going to take a look through all of this information and talk about whether these changes can help save Rust on console or if it's already dead in the water. Hey everybody, my name's Ben, we are the Beard Guys, and welcome back to another Rust console video. If you're interested in getting all of the latest Rust console news delivered to you in a British accent, then you have come to the right place. It's been a little while since I've put out any Rust console content, mostly because I've just been waiting for them to release something interesting. I, like many Rust players, have pretty much stopped playing the game until community servers or something else interesting is released. And so I've been holding fire on doing another video until I felt there was something really worth talking about. With the first blueprint wipe last week, and now a dev letter being published containing some interesting information about the progress of the game so far and what we can expect to see next, it felt like a good time for a bit of an update. So the dev letter shared recently by the 11 team touches on a few interesting key areas. We get our first glimpse of the current dev roadmap and where we currently are on it. It discusses the recent blueprint wipe and when the next one will be. And it also talks about the soon to be released public test server and skin store and what we're likely to see in those. On top of that, it also comments on the idea of team size restricted servers and the current progress of community or custom servers. The roadmap they share at the start of the letter is one of the more promising parts of it, showing that they are now through the main bulk of their stability and performance improvements and are moving on to more content related things. These initial content releases are going to be the much awaited skin store and also the public test branch. And if 11 are able to follow the timeline given, then we should expect to see both of these going live very soon. The skin store has been eagerly awaited by many players seeking to make their characters and bases look fancy by spending their hard-earned cash or mummy and daddy's credit card on various skins or bundles of skins that they can use in-game. More interesting for me personally though is the public test branch. This is the Rust console test server that owners of the deluxe and ultimate editions of the game will have access to, and it will give players the opportunity to try out new features before they are pushed to the live servers. This will include previously removed monuments that are being re-added, such as the water treatment plant, as well as the implementation of the tech tree system. For those not familiar with this, it's basically what they use on Rust PC, and it allows you to spend scrap to research specific things in a tech tree rather than randomly throwing scrap into workbenches and hoping for the best. Interestingly, as well as these expected things, it also mentions the idea of testing adjusted gun handling, aiming and recoil improvements, different map sizes, and different server configurations. This is the part that I find the most exciting, as I think the gun mechanics and handling in general on Rust are pretty awful. They've just ported the exact recoil from PC onto console, thanks Harvey's GG, and as a controller-based game, I just don't think it holds up well to other non-aim assist controller shooters. I'm really excited to see what changes they decide to test out with regards to gun handling and aiming, and hopefully this will help them move towards giving shooting a much better feel in-game. For me, PUBG has always been a great example of a controller shooter done well. PUBG has no aim assist for console, but just uses slightly reduced recoil compared to the PC version, which gives a nice balance of difficulty whilst not being impossible. I think the way that the set recoil patterns work generally in Rust is just something that doesn't really blend well with controller player, especially the huge amounts of horizontal recoil that some of the weapons have. Obviously, that's just my opinion and not everyone's going to agree, so I'd be interested to hear your comments down below on what you think of the gunplay in Rust console and what examples of non-aim assist shooters you think work pretty well on console. Obviously, aim assist is something they're going to add to some servers at some stage in the future, but I think for most players, they'll be looking to play without it. Different map sizes is another really interesting one here, and to be honest, it's something I thought they might avoid touching on for a while. With the obviously huge performance differences of the older generation consoles when compared to the new ones, devs are generally a little bit shy of pushing things too much for fear of giving bad performance to the older gen players. It's a difficult situation when you have some of your players on a console that's 6 or 7 years old and some of them on the latest hardware, all playing in the same game together and hoping that that works. Making map sizes bigger on a game that already has a poor frame rate for OG Xbox users is certainly going to cause more performance issues, but I think it's great to see them trying it out. I think if they can get bigger maps working, even if they then have to restrict them to being next gen only, then that would be an awesome thing to see. Much like how the new Battlefield is giving different size player count games to next gen players compared to old gen players, it is absolutely time to make sure games are maximizing the potential of the new hardware rather than holding people back in order to cater for those older consoles. It's important to support those older consoles for as long as they're being used by a lot of players and to make sure they have an acceptable experience, but there comes a point where you have to somewhat separate development in order to get the best out of the new hardware. Performance for me on the Xbox Series X feels great, and I feel confident that D11 could get it to run similarly well on a map of twice the size, which would be such a fun playing experience. Even if that kept the same player count, having a 5-kilometer map would give you loads more space to explore, your bases and players would be more spread out, and it'd just generally be a much more fun and richer world to play in. The last thing they mention about testing on the public test branch is different server configurations. This ties in with what they later discuss in the letter on community servers, where they talk about the need for further testing before they can be released. Being able to test out different server settings is going to be incredibly useful for refining the custom server experience once it goes live, and it should also serve to give us an idea of the kind of settings we might be able to change ourselves if we host a server in the future. Hopefully we'll see things like boosted rates, different map sizes, and maybe even offline raid protection or PvP restricted areas. Of course, restricted team sizes is another setting we want to see, but unless there are active admins on a server enforcing team size rules, then it's a little redundant to fully test those on the test server perhaps. I've talked a lot about what I'd like to see in community servers in a previous video, so if you want a bit more information on that, I'll put a link up in the top corner of the video. As for when we might see custom servers released, this is still a little up in the air. The devs state that they are still looking to improve the performance and memory usage of the game on servers so they can offer players a good price and also a good state of stability. So with the skin store and test server due first, it's reasonable to think that we may have another couple of months to wait for community servers, given the generally slow pace of updates for Rust so far. Hopefully they get these out sooner rather than later, as the amount of players I've seen say they are taking a break from the game until community servers are out is absolutely crazy. One of the main reasons for this is obviously people wanting to play with restricted team sizes, and this is something that is briefly mentioned in this dev letter. There is a small section that acknowledges players' concerns about this and reiterates the point that team-restricted servers won't work until community servers are out. This is because even if teams are completely disabled, there's nothing to stop 10 people deciding they're going to team up anyway without moderators on 24/7. Somewhat hilariously, Double 11's suggestion to help you with your problems of constantly getting killed by massive zergs is to tell you to use the looking for group rooms on Discord to help you join one yourself. So I guess if you can't beat them, then join them. Thanks Double 11 for helping make even more zergs then, I guess. Lastly, it's worth touching on the blueprint wipe details mentioned in the letter. We had our first BP wipe last week, which is usually something saved for major gameplay changes and content releases like the upcoming tech tree, but various exploits had been going on since release, so they felt it was worth doing one a little early. Expect to see another BP wipe when the tech tree goes live, and they're also now BP wiping the weekly servers every wipe too. Or at least that's what they say in this letter. They then went on to clarify later on Discord that what they actually meant was that weekly servers will be doing a normal wipe every week, and they'll be doing a blueprint wipe every month. So your weekly server is still going to wipe on a Thursday as normal, and that won't be a BP wipe. The next blueprint wipe for a weekly will be on the 30th of September. Don't worry if that sounded confusing at all, because it was. Personally, I don't think BP wipes are a huge issue either way, as any group of a few players of decent experience is likely to get all of the major BPs within a few days or even hours of a fresh wipe anyway, but they will be more impactful on small team or solo servers once we see these out in the wild. They've also added some 60-person capped servers to the server lists. I'm not sure really what difference this will make. I don't think there were that many servers that were getting more than 60 players anyway, to be honest, so I don't think the experience on those is going to be that different between a 60 and a 100-person server, to be honest. So that just about covers everything for today. Let me know what you think about this dev letter down in the comments below, and also let me know how your Rust experience is at the moment, and if there's anything in particular you'd like me to make a video on. I've got a few things in the works, but they will be mostly focused on looking at new update information and content once we see it. So if you want to stay up to date with that kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe to the channel to catch all of our latest videos. So thanks very much for watching. My name's Ben, we are the Beard Guys, and I'll see you next time.